Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Phoblographer's Inside the Photographer's Mind. On this week's episode, I'll be sitting down with Donato Di Camillo. He is a New York-based street photographer, documentary photographer, and he's an interesting guy. He's got a lot to say, very opinionated, and he doesn't hold it back, which we absolutely love. And we've got a good show for you this week. Guys, just before we get into it, please do subscribe to the podcast, share it, like it, leave us your comments. We're always open to your feedback. Let's get into it. Donato, how you doing?
Hey, what's up? How are you? How's everything?
I'm good, man. I'm glad that we finally got this going. on both sides, we were having, technical
difficulty there.
I won't keep you too long today. I know you're busy, and you said you were working through the night.
Yeah. I was helping a friend of mine, actually.
Nice.
But I'm trying to get a full screen here. Yeah. So what's going on? Where are you? You're in England, no?
No, I mean I am from England. That's true, but I'm in Mexico City.
Oh, you're in Mexico. Okay.
Yeah. Have you ever been?
Not Mexico City, but I have been in Mexico. Yes.
Great country.
Mm-hmm.
Great country. Great place for photography as well. Mexico City it's cool, man.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some areas where you just don't go, but that's everywhere, right?
Yeah. Well, I like to go to those places that you don't go.
You like to go to the no-go zones?
And I go, and I don't know. I take a lot of stupid risks, I guess. That's just
is that part of like the thrill? Because you do street photography, right? Is that part of the thrill for you?
Yeah, I think so. I think for me, it comes with why I do it. It's not really about just the aesthetics. I think it's about the thrill of, just trying to find, that certain look or whatever. It seems to. I think people with adversities, especially when you're dealing with these grittier or maybe dangerous type of areas, I think there's a different kind of pulse there. So it's intriguing for me because I think I'm familiar with it. So it's not really foreign to me. I feel I feel comfortable there than I would in I don't know. It's just a weird thing for me, but yeah.
So did you grow up in quite what's the politically correct way to say it nowadays? I would call it, I grew up in a rough area in England. That's what we would call it, a rough area.
It was pretty rough, but it's just like any other. I think New York was, when I was coming up, it was rough, almost. If you had to get from point A to point B, there was a good chance that you were going through a little patch of roughness somewhere along the way, so, yeah.
And when you go into these areas, have you had any kind of troubles? Like when you're making photographs, have you experienced any kind of confrontation?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, like I was in, it was actually not a different country. It was actually somewhere in Louisiana. And
okay.
We had gone on to these, I guess they call them projects, housing development. It's, what they call their housing developments. They're a little different than what we have here. We have projects here where big buildings, fairly tall buildings, maybe 20 stories, and they're like kind of little, mazes of alleyways and stuff like that. So, it's a bit different there. It's more leveled out and kind of people hanging out on low-level homes. They can't throw bottles at you from, or shoot you from a rooftop. They're right in your face, so they'll come out their front door and say, "What the hell are you doing on my property?"
Yeah,
I'm going to try not to curse too much on your show.
Yeah, I mean, if it comes out, it comes out.
Yes,
we're all adults here.
From talking like that, but there I had a bit of an issue with a few people. Obviously they didn't like. I don't know if it was. I don't think it was a white or black thing. I just think it was a stranger, walking around their area with a camera.
Yeah.
And so, I was approached a few times, and told, X'd actually, what are you doing with the camera? And blah, blah, blah. But, usually, I'm pretty good at diffusing those situations. So it's, it works itself out 9 out of 10 times. Or I'll just walk away. It's not that big of a deal.
How, if you don't walk away, how do you tend to diffuse a situation like that?
First, I won't be rude and walk away and give somebody my back ever. That's just asking for, confrontation, because you just don't do that type of thing to a man or, to anybody really. I think it's rude to just kind of turn away, especially when you're in their area and you're trying to, make pictures or whatever, make films or whatever. I think it's rude to just turn your back. I think it's just a bit of psychology, and kind of diffuse it by understanding where they're coming from and allowing them to understand where you're coming from. Mm-hmm. And so for me, 9 out of 10 times it usually works out in a, in a way where I do get access. Yeah. And then if not, it's just a respectful goodbye. I respect your space, so I'm going to just leave, and that's it, basically.
I think that's important for anyone listening as well to take that on board, because I know, a lot of people in the street photography community, and I think sometimes when confrontation happens, more so if it's a male street photographer, sometimes ego can get in the way and you don't want to stand down. But, really, there's nothing good comes from kind of matching any aggression that the person's sending your way. It just, it's just going to turn into either someone gets hurt, a camera gets broken, and, there's no good that comes out of it. So it's better just to be like, hey, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. I don't think it's worth it, having to go through that. I mean, there's always a way to kind of amicably, work things out, I think, so yeah, but it does happen. It does happen,
So I was reading about you, and it seems you enjoyed reading National Geographic and Life magazine as a child. I imagine that was the photographs you enjoyed looking at. Is that right?
Yeah, amongst other things. Now, I mean, I've talked about it so much that yeah. I mean, I've read many since, picked up so many different magazines, so many different books on photography. So it's yeah. I did grow up. That's where I was initially introduced to, visual storytelling. Yeah.
And I know you said you've talked about it so much because obviously your life kind of took a different path. Do you get fed up of kind of talking about kind of the journey you went on?
I mean, I don't want to be known as the guy that came from prison and took pictures. It's after a while it becomes redundant.
Yeah.
I still to this day people ask me, if I want to, but I guess it is who I am. You know what I mean? In one way, but in another way, it could be a little annoying because there's a lot more to me than my past. My past story. Yeah, we'll talk about it, but I get to a certain point and I'm just all right. Enough. Let's move on with this.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it's the same story. You could read it anywhere or hear it anywhere. So it's just, I think sometimes, people don't, I guess because they I don't know why they just keep asking the same fucking questions.
Well, I think society in general kind of, it's very interesting because I think society while everyone wants to turn people away from that, you know, that once people have kind of overcome it, then society has a habit of like glorifying it, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
You know,
I agree. I think in the minds of a lot of these young photographers, I think they think it's cool that there's nothing fucking cool about it. I mean, there's nothing cool about going to prison. There's nothing cool about it. It just happened to be my journey. You know, it's just something that happened to me. I made some bad decisions, but the beautiful thing about it is that I was able to find, photography through it. And that's the real story, where of course, I believe a lot of people are sincere about, that they find it, not, interesting that's how I found, photography. But after a while, like I said, it does get a little tired talking about it. It's like talking about an Oscar somebody won about the same movie over and over. You know what I mean? I'm not comparing myself to, that greatness, but I'm just saying it just becomes so, redundant. Like how was it in there? I could tell you how it was in there. It sucked.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think...
you know what I mean? But that's, it is what it is.
Do you ever feel that Pasto do you ever feel it takes away from the credibility you should have, and you do have it, many people respect you as a photographer, but do you feel it kind of that story deflects from actually how talented you are sometimes?
I gotta, there's so much I could be doing, and I get caught up in I can't take criticism well. I don't receive criticism well. Like, so if people say, most of the times people say like your work is so deep and it's so this and so that. And I think it's like, okay. I don't think it's fucking fantastic. I really like my thought process is way over here. Mm-hmm. It's like I aspire to be. But, in the same token, I'm trying to be me. I don't want to copy other people's kind of styles and integrate. I try not to mimic other people's work.
Yeah.
I understand there's basic laws and rules and stuff like that. And those I also kind of tend to ignore. But I think the question was, what was the question again? I just want to make sure.
So because, we were talking about how many people focus on your past, and I'm just wondering if you feel that takes away from the focus of your work. Like, are people more inclined to be like, hey, let's talk about your past rather than your photographs, or at least, not give them as much credibility as they deserve because they're too interested in, what came before?
No, there's been like one or two, not many. We always get to the real, reason why I'm making pictures. But there's been a few, but I kind of dismiss it and kind of move on because some people are new at what they're doing. Podcasts, let's say, and they don't know how to move on. Yeah. So it becomes where, we get like, I have to kind of guide the narrative a bit, what I'm saying, to kind of get out of that kind of those waters. So, no, I think people respect, for the most part. I think people, know that I'm serious and I do take decent pictures for that matter. You know what I mean?
In terms of your photographs, you mentioned, people say that they're great and then you think that they're okay. In terms of where you want your images to be and where they are now, how far do you feel you're away from being the kind of photographer that you're aspiring to be, that you're constantly working towards being?
Street photography is a real funny thing because I tell you, you don't make tons of money from making photographs. So you have to ask yourself a number of questions. Why am I doing this? and what are you trying to say? And there's a couple of variables that I would suggest that you have to ask yourself. And so for me, it's more about a personal journey. It's not about pleasing everybody. And so because what happened with this, soon as Instagram came and it came on the scene, and I think it took away a little bit of what people unknowingly, I think it took away from the reason why people are photographing, because they're so busy getting caught up in likes and comments, and that's just my personal opinion. And I'm guilty of it. Sometimes it annoys me I get these comments and these, it's just, they're not bad. It's not bad. It's not good. But sometimes, I think, when I speak to young photographers, especially, they're like, nobody likes my shit. I suck. I'm like, dude, you're doing this for the wrong reason. If you're doing it for everybody else, you absolutely are doing it for the wrong reason. You want the right people to like your work, of course. It's just, it's common sense. But not everybody's going to like your work.
No.
So that's, and that's another, I think a tough pill to swallow. Not everybody's going to like your work. Not everybody's going to like your style. Not everybody likes my style. A lot of people think my work is shit, and I think a lot of my work is shit as well. But what the fuck? I mean, that's what it is,
I think it's right with Instagram, mainly Instagram and social media in general. And it's something I've kind of wrestled with. I do street photography as well. I've been doing it for about 10 years now. And with the Instagram, it feels like, it feels dirty in a way, because it's like, hey, what is my why here? Like, oh, I'm just showing a picture because I want other people to validate me. I mean, if we need validation from others before we can validate ourselves, then we're never going to make the work that we want to make, right?
Yeah, I agree. And that's one thing I try to express through these through a lot of podcasts and through meeting photographers. I try to just kind of instill a work ethic that imagine, if you will, there was no years ago, we didn't have this social media. I mean, everybody's airing their bullshit. Excuse me, I'm horrible with my language, but everybody's airing out, whatever, every thought that comes through their head,
Yeah.
And sometimes it becomes a little bit much. And so we live in a different time where, you have to be exceptional to have everybody or you have to be on your computer night and day. I mean, it's marketing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're thinking about it, most people that I know that are into, the thousands of likes per image or whatever are hitting their computer really hard. Their phone. I mean, they're working that phone constantly, liking images that they don't even like, just constantly, just to get that feedback, or to get, people to kind of, and I get it. It's a smart thing when you're marketing your work. I just don't have that aptitude. I don't have that patience. And I don't feel that if your work is I want to try to use the right word. I guess good enough. I don't think you need to like kill your phone. To constantly, look, I like what I like, and that's it. That's the bottom line. I don't go on the phone and like it, and it's kind of, I get people like, yo, you never like my work. You never check my work out. I did check your work out. I do check a lot of people's work out, and when I have the time, I do like it. But I'm not on my phone night and day. And I think that people take that the wrong way. And I think that's one of the reasons why I don't like Instagram. It's a great tool to get your work out there. if it wasn't for Instagram or these other platforms, I would have never, nobody would have known my story, and nobody would have found out what the hell I was about.
Yeah.
So it's, it's a double-edged sword. And I think I think you use it, intelligently, and you'll get good results. But I wouldn't be doing it for like you said before, validation.
Yeah.
A lot of young photographers are doing it for validation, not because they love what they do.
Yeah. And I sometimes worry, like, what impact that's going to have on their social skills and things like that. And also, these, much of social media, it's not authentic. Like, I would rather say 5 photographers give me some meaningful feedback than 10,000 people just say, good shot, for example,
Right.
It's not authentic. And, it's a problem. It's one of the reasons why we want to do the podcast, because we can have more of an engaging kind of conversation about work and things like that. Right,
I agree. I agree. I think podcasts are becoming the new a better platform, actually, to kind of, because you touch on people's feelings, and you get to understand what the motivation is behind your work.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know what the hell another person's thinking, and I'm here to tell you, I love everybody's work. I learn from photographers that are just beginning, and I learn from photographers that are seasoned and master photographers. I do take away a little bit from everyone, whether it's something I shouldn't do, or whether it's something I should do. But I do take away from work.
Yeah.
I just don't have. I can't gauge, like, this whole social media craze. It's kind of like dulling out people's senses, I think. So. I don't want to rant on about this.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
That's really what happened. I kind of lost interest in it because everybody was so engaged in the likes and that. So I kind of lay off of Instagram lately.
In terms of, you touched on motivation. I think motivation often changes throughout any photographer's journey. Like, in this current moment of time in your life, like, what's your main motivation to keep making street photographs?
It's really, I kind of, I'm shying away from the street a little bit and doing more, not the street as a whole, but I think I'm shying away from the click, kind of from a distance kind of thing. And that's just my preference, because I think it's been overdone so much. I mean, how much could we, for me, I think it's important to kind of, constantly, mold my own style and kind of, speak my own way. So I think, as far as street photography goes, and kind of just like laying in the shadows and waiting for the proper moment, I think there's so much of it. It's almost hard to tell. It's hard to express a unique story, unless I go up close and personal and kind of meet people and kind of really get in there. And that's kind of been my way of expressing myself. I mean, that's okay. I mean, I get it. I still occasionally take, candid photos, and that's fine, whatever. It's just, for me, I don't think it's enough. Like, I feel like jumping down the throats of some people and kind of or getting in the heads of people and trying to understand what the hell is going on in people's minds, because I find myself full of so much thought and questions, and I love to know where people are at. I really do. And so a lot of times I try to convey it through a simple photograph or even a simple portrait. I'm so intrigued by people. I really am. And you asked before, where do you see your work? Like where do you, what are my aspirations for my work? Or I'm not even close to where I want to be, as far as, creating something, stronger. I think it's as I work, the more I work. I haven't worked really. I've been haven't been photographing as much as I usually did, but now that I started, kind of getting the ball rolling, I think it's going to be a little bit more complex with a little bit more of a storyline,
Other than the obvious reason, the pandemic, is there kind of other reasons why you haven't been photographing as much and picking up the camera? Is it kind of a creative block or a confidence thing or just a lack of interest?
It's not really a creative block. I just think, I think it could be a little bit of both. I kind of I like to stay true to who I am, so I don't want to, I've seen many images of, the web imitations, where the shadow meets the colors, and those silhouette-y kind of, and I've seen people kind of, imitate different I'm seeing it so much on Instagram, but you can't really get away from that. Sooner or later, you're going to, resemble somebody's work, because we take away from all different artists. To make it uniquely yours is, for me, that's important. I want people to say, I think that's Donato's work, or I think that's Dan's work. I'd like to identify people. Like when I look at Jacob Sobel, I know right away.
Yeah,
I know it's his work. He's got that grainy, black and white, deep contrast, kind of lineage, in the kind of, in his bodies of work. You could see like the shadows almost create the lines in his work, which is, I find it quite beautiful. It's a little on a dark side, and I like that too. So, he's got that fingerprint that you really can't deny, when you see his work, and I think for me, I would like to establish a certain, kind of, look where, it's mine,
It kind of raises a good point, because, and I think about this sometimes, and I'm interested in what you think, is, the photographers from back in the day, that could carve out their identity. They didn't have social media. Not as many people had cameras. Do you think because there's so many cameras in people's hands or in their pockets with their phones, everyone's looking at Instagram and all that stuff, do you think it's becoming impossible to actually have your own identity anymore because everybody's just all at it together?
No, I don't think it's impossible. I think it's incredibly difficult. I don't think it's impossible. Anything's possible. No, I don't. I just don't like. I just look. Maybe I get too. I get caught up in this a little bit too much. But like I really believe that if you're going to make pictures like somebody else, then what the hell's the point?
Yeah.
Be you.
Yeah.
What I'm saying? And I see also a lot of throwback work, and which is fine. I can't go out and make photographs like Versailles or it's the times are different. We're living in different times, So I see a lot of photographers kind of trying to capture that, and it's okay. It's just the way they express. But I don't know. I just find it important to kind of try to be unique and be bring something fresh to the table. It's just like art, I mean, if you're going to copy Basquiat, I mean, we see it all the time, these paintings, and they're like kind of Basquiat-ish, but it's a little bit too much Basquiat-ish. It's like you see like, skulls and little writings in there. What's the point? Create your own shit for crying out loud.
Do you yourself, do you do any kind of art away from photography? Do you do any painting, drawing, anything like that?
I did. Not good at it. I would never show you it. I'm not ready for that. I definitely tried, but I'm just gonna. I would just turn it into an I would call it my abstract work. But in actuality, it's just a bunch of blotches of paint,
Well, that's what minimalist photographers do, isn't it? When there's like nothing interesting in the scene, they just go, "Oh, it's minimal photography."
Give it a label, give it a name, and it'll fly. But I tried to. My father was a decent painter.
Yeah.
And, he was pretty good actually, and he never took lessons. I could actually show you a piece. Would you like to see one?
Absolutely.
Here at my studio. Hold on.
Absolutely.
He passed like a few years ago. Isn't this amazing?
Wow. No training either, just self-taught.
The man is a beast. I mean, if he would have,
And you say that he unfortunately passed away a few years ago.
Passed away 4 years ago.
Did that in any way influence when that happened? Did that influence the way that you shoot or how you felt about photography?
No, it didn't. But I did have a hard time because I had some issues with my mom, and she, there was 65 years of marriage there, so it was psychologically, with my mom, and they were from, Italy, and they were first generation.
Yeah.
So, my mom didn't drive. She didn't do, my dad helped her with everything. And so when he was gone, it was just like a psychological, I mean, she needed me to be around all the time. And so, that took away, I put her through fucking hell. So, it was just a given that I was going to help her out and take care of her.
Yeah, of course.
So, but, it's all good, We come
what region of Italy are they from?
A place called Abruzzi. It's near Naples, Abruzzi, Italy. It's in the province of L'Aquila. I don't know how most people pronounce it. I pronounce it L'Aquila. Being Italian, I think that's the right way to say it. But I do speak fluent Italian. Yeah.
Have you been able to get to Italy?
Yeah. I had some work out there a few times. Yeah.
Beautiful part of the world. I've spent quite a lot of time in Naples. I think Naples is a very challenged city, to say the least.
Yeah.
Self-disclosure, but an ex-girlfriend of mine, she was from Naples. So that was a motivation to go over. And, I saw some things that I'd never seen before. And I thought, okay, I should probably get out of this area right now. But then at the same time, Naples is beautiful. In my opinion, it's a beautiful city, and it's a great place for street photography as well. I mean, the tiny, narrow, cobbled streets, especially around Christmas time, when everyone's in a bit of a better mood, and they've got the little miniatures and the wooden things. It's a lot of time spent in Naples, and I miss it. But I think it's a very misunderstood city, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of culture there. There's in all of Italy, I think there's so much culture. Like you said, it's misunderstood. So is a lot of other parts of the country, of the United States, abroad, wherever, it's all misunderstood to one extent to another, But I've been to Naples. I've been to Sicily. I've been all over Italy, and for me to navigate, I would like to go down there and do like a kind of. I'm interested in like off like kind of like I like where people really won't want to. People don't have interest in going, like where all they're afraid of going. I don't know why, but for some reason, like I'm doing a series right now on New York stabbings, and you see some of these victims of crime, and so I'm taking some intimate portraits of these people that have been victimized, criminally victimized, and I think the reason why I chose stabbings is because it's so. Firstly, I think I don't want to say it's my roots, but in an Italian, kind of how do you say it? I'm not very good with words, but it's very personal. To use a fucking knife to go up to somebody and use a knife is pretty sick, and so I find it, psychologically, to put yourself there and to hear some of these stories are really, it's just incredible, how people could be so vicious, and I find that kind of work, like if I would have probably, like I like Ouija, like, looking at Ouija's work and see, like today, police won't let you get that close to a crime scene. I would have loved to be I would love to to do that kind of work, but so I was doing I started with one, and then I like scars for some reason, and so especially that people that have survived, that overcome the brutality of attacks. But for some reason, the knife is so personal. I think you have to get really close to. It's not like shooting somebody from across the street. I think it's quite personal, and so as I was going through some of my images, I was like, wow, I think I got a body of work coming out here, and so I started pursuing it. The tough part is finding people that will talk about it.
Well, I was about to ask how are you getting access to your subjects, and then first how are you finding them, and then what's your approach to kind of saying, hey, I'm doing this series, I want to photograph you, and how do you approach that? So A, they kind of don't feel like, a novelty, if you will, and B, that they trust your motives for doing the work. How do you approach all that?
It's a good question. It's difficult. It's not easy to get to have someone talk about something so personal. And so for me, I think a lot of it, and I spoke about it before, a lot of it comes from the experience of being on the street and having to deal with a lot of, let me straighten the screen out. I get my beautiful face in there. And so, I think it's because I've been on the street, and I know I kind of understand the psychology of you have to know the nature of the beast to kind of navigate around them, to kind of so I think that comes in handy, and so that's been a really big benefit. It's been a great benefit to me when approaching people, and not only for this assignment but for every assignment. I think people open up to me very easily, and I get to know people's intimate stories. I'm doing this American Truths Unwritten, and eventually I will divulge all those unwritten truths, in a book, or in a whatever, in a collection, or maybe a show. But you'd be surprised what people want to talk about. They have it inside them. They're just waiting for someone to ask them.
Yeah.
And there's signs, there's certain ways that you could find these things out. I mean, it doesn't come quickly. You have to kind of work, your magic,
Yeah.
and I think everybody has a certain degree of talent, especially photographers. I think photographers by nature are sensitive people. I think
I agree.
I think they're sensitive. Some of them are most of the photographers that I know are sensitive. They're kind of poetic and they kind of deep thinkers. So I think that works well, but as far as getting someone to talk about, being stabbed or, having their neck slashed or whatever, it takes a bit of communication and getting to know somebody. And by me talking about my life experiences and kind of getting to know people on that level, not straight away saying, hey, have you ever been shot or stabbed? I mean, that's really silly. I mean, I'm like, you look like the type of person that's been shot.
Just with a camera in their face.
Pick up your shirt. You have any, But I've been with some young photographers that I met up with. I get a lot of people that ask me, hey, I would love to meet you, and I'm not opposed to meeting anybody, but there's been times where some young photographers try to, I guess, make an impression, or they'll like be very aggressive towards people, and I'd be like, yo, calm down, man. These people, like, I know these people, man. You can't do that.
And they're people as well. You got to remember that they're not just I don't know what the right word is.
Subject,
Yeah. Hey, they're people.
They won't have it anyway, But yeah.
And I think it raises another good point and I think, not to blow too much smoke up your ass, but just from speaking with you, like, you're clearly a genuine and authentic guy. And I think it's important for because I see so many photographers, they do subjects because either they're a trend at the moment, or they're kind of shocking, if you will. But you can tell just they have no kind of emotional connection to that story. There's nothing there.
Nothing.
And it's just I'll go on record saying this. You see so many projects, series, photography projects where photographers, they don't care about the actual story. They just care about the success that they think it will bring. And right. I think with you, because you clearly, you're able to show one experience, you've experienced, probably some things growing up and things like that. And being genuine, I think, not only does it make subjects feel like they can trust the photographer more, but it makes the end work so much better, so much more interesting. Oh yeah,
I agree with you on all fronts there. I agree. I think, we all look for recognition in whatever we do. Whether we're working for a Fortune 500 company or whatever it is that you do, I think people want a pat on the back, or people want to be told, people want to be accepted from one degree to another. But with that comes a certain responsibility. You know what I mean? You have to earn that kind of, credibility. You don't just go out and, some don't, some get lucky and they get Instagram famous. I mean, who gives a shit? Really, but yeah, you could do that by pounding away at your keys all day long. And, hey, I know that guy, he shows up, he likes my work every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And then you have people like me, and I'll be first to admit it. I do generally give a shit, especially about people that have suffered adversities and that have gone through. I love underdogs. I can't get enough of them. And I'm not talking about someone that's boozed up and laying in the street, they have obvious addiction problems or whatever. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people that are just, they're kind of in between, this, kind of getting it and getting on the right track and just not being able to get there, and they're still struggling, and it just makes it just shows how really tough humans can be.
Yeah.
We eat shit. Excuse my language, but this
it's
is
true.
We eat so much shit in our world, in our lifetime. And I think it takes a special person to endure that kind of, shit eating.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it becomes interesting to me, the world, we are in such a tilt. This world has become bananas, man.
Yeah.
And, to find that, that unique individual that will share their story with you or spend a few. I don't make a first when I meet somebody. There's an occasional. Obviously, I make photographs on the spot. I'll meet people on the beach. I love going to the beach. There's always somebody out there. It's a place where people congregate, and I'll make photographs, whether I ask them or I'll snap or whatever. But I always get back to that person if I find them super interesting. And I keep an open relationship with them. I mean, there's been people that come to my shows, and they're like, in tears, like, "Oh my God, you put me in your show." And it's for me, that's the gratification that I get through photography. I'm able to give people, give them the importance that they deserve. Like
you're validating them.
Yes, they deserve it, man.
Yeah.
They're not. These people aren't just people that are struggling. These are people. These could be anybody.
Yeah.
So I'm really passionate about this stuff. Maybe it's a little bit too much. Where sometimes, like you mentioned before, where I got like a block, a creative block, because I care so much and I want it to come through, in a certain way.
You mentioned that you like going to the beach, and that was a perfect segue for a question I have, because my favorite series of yours is Beachbody Bingo.
I do. I agree. I go to the beach too much, I think. But
But that series, Beachbody Bingo, I think it's a great idea. And I'm not sure. Does that make you? Is there something about that series that makes you uncomfortable, or is it?
No. It was a big. I mean, I've shot it over a number of years. It was my first. It was my first baby, I guess. That was the catalyst that kind of got me some notoriety in the photography world, because people were seeing these these very garish, like almost Monparish shit. Monpar was like a perfect example of somebody that I was struggling not to be like. I didn't want to be too much like Monpar, but it's almost like you can't help it because he thinks in that little wacky, zany way. He's such a great photographer. And, I started seeing myself being like kind of almost a lot of the images that I was actually making were starting to be a little similar to it. And I couldn't accept that. So I would try to do something different.
Yeah.
And it's really hard, to find. I like working on the beach because it's just so many different personalities, and especially Coney Island's just a bunch of crazy. Everybody's just so free spirited, and they just don't care.
How come that area? When I went to New York, I didn't get down to Coney Island, but I'm interested, and you'll be far better able to answer this. Like, how come that kind of culture is there? Because I'm trying to think of the right word. I don't want to say freaks. That's not the right word. Extroverts, if you will. But there are just so many people that you just do not see in day-to-day life really kind of zoned into that one. How has that happened?
I think it's over the years, it's gotten that it's just, it's a place where people go and they could just be who the hell they want to be.
Yeah.
And it's really, it's really comforting to know that there's a place like this exists. You know what I mean? You get people that are tattooed from head to toe, and then you get the conservatives, yuppies from the city, and and they're sitting right next to each other, and it's great. It's great, and there's a lot of different contrasts, and it's just, for me, I find it interesting. So, and that it's not really the reason why I even started going. My grandfather used to bring me there when I was a kid. My family, we used to go there as kids, and so it's a bit nostalgic for me. It has some nostalgic importance. And so I always used it as a place for me to kind of just unwind. And, I figured, why not bring a camera one day? And then there you go. That's where the Beachbody was born,
It's interesting because we do need more places like Coney Island. And I don't want to sound like pessimistic or negative, but when I speak with my street photography friends or documentary photography friends, I often say we're living in the worst time to be doing this kind of photography, because I look back at maybe the 60s, 70s, 80s, where there were so many different subcultures. Unfortunately, I wasn't born, but there was so many different subcultures and identities, and no one really gave two thoughts about whether what they was doing was weird, or it was just, this is who we are, this is who you are, deal with it, let's all try our best to get along. I feel like nowadays society is either too scared to, or members of society too scared to kind of put themselves out there, or too judgmental of other people that do put themselves out there. So we kind of live in a society now where everything's just neutral overall. It just feels neutral, and it feels boring to photograph that at times. I don't know, someone who's maybe got a bit more experience than me in the world, how you feel about that.
No, I agree. I do. We can't, for crying out loud, it was the Depression, but I would have killed to be back in the Depression and make photographs. We can't capture those moments anymore. Like Dorothea Lange. If I'm pronouncing her last name, her surname correctly, is it Dorothea Lange?
I think that, yeah. I'm not great at pronouncing names, I'll be honest with you.
Well, I don't want to, disrespect her.
No.
By destroying her last name, but we can't capture those images anymore. Those are gone. There's so many more photographers that were coming up that had that beautiful palette to work with.
Yeah.
So, quite often I see people trying to capture that kind of stylistic type of work, and it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. We have to focus on what's going on now, and what's going on now is, well, like what you said, is kind of like, flatlining, and it's the reason why I try to go. And like I said, I want to be inside people's heads and try to get, when my next body of work is coming out, it's not going to just be for shock value. It's not what it's intended for. It's going to be it's going to be a thread that we're all connected to, and it's going to be something that says this could be you, this could be a son or whatever. And I think that, like you said, I think most photographers are missing the point. You know what I mean? Or they kind of become, like you said, it's tough. It's really tough, especially with street photography, because you have all these filters now, and everybody. I can't stand when I see there's these filters that come up on, I'm not a big Facebook person, but on Instagram or Facebook, once in a while I go on and you'll see like these these plugins, like, and there'll be a picture of somebody, and then they'll, like, you could see like butterflies coming off the image. I'm like, oh my God, I fucking hate you. Whoever this stupid, this idiot, you know, it bothers me.
Yeah,
you know I mean? Especially when you know, I very rarely touch, you know, I use Lightroom. And I don't remove things. I just use whatever, you know. Sometimes I don't even. I'm so not tech savvy.
Yeah.
Horrible with the computer, like organizing stuff. I'm horrible, but I could say that. But you know, I see these apps now that just take away from your work. Like, it takes away from your originality and your work. I mean, keep it yours, man. Why are you giving it to some app to change? You're changing it all around and making it walk and talk and shit.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, it's weird. Photography's photography. It's not, you know, illustrated or whatever they call it. You know, so yeah.
The same is kind of true with like presets where people just click a button and the photo's edited. I mean, I'm not necessarily against that, but it's like people are seeing popular photographers doing well and they go, let me buy your presets so my images look like yours. Then their thought process is, I'll do well. And it's like,
yeah, that's not going to happen. I can tell you right now, that's not going to happen. I mean, no, there's nothing wrong with, you know, maybe I'm misspeaking, but I'm not saying that I'm talking about when it's a little extreme, you know.
Yeah, I get you.
Black and white or tonality, you know, preset. That's fine. I mean, everybody burned and dodged in their Lightroom, so you know, I think every photographer touches up some of their work to some degree or another. But I'm talking about the extreme stuff, like you know, where it becomes a cartoon or something. You know what I mean? You know, either use lights or use your own work. You know, that's how I feel about that. But
we started the conversation kind of mentioning street photography, but if we're reflective, we've probably spent most of it talking about, without saying it, documentary photography. I mean, what you're kind of interested in terms of like really digging deep. It's very difficult to do that with street photography. So do you think that's where you're at now? Do you think documentary photography, and I know the two are very linked, but do you think that's kind of where you're at now and where the future lies in terms of you as a photographer and what you're going to be passionate about and focusing on?
Yeah, I have a couple of things that I need to work on. I need to work on my organizational skill when it comes to, I just don't have I like making photographs. I mean, I've been told that there's a lot of photographers that just, you know, especially, you know, older photographers that just don't want to deal with it, but they have assistants. I don't have assistants, you know, running around for me. I got one person that helps me every now and then and cleans up my work, you know, puts it in whatever. But I think I think that's where it's going. If documentary, I think that's, you know, I lost a ton of work, and I'm talking about, you know, prominent magazines because I wasn't organized on time, or I'm like, here it is. You want it? Take it. You know what I'm saying? I'll drop a jewel. Yeah. I mean, that's something that I really have to work on. But as far as, that's where it's going. It's going to documentary. I don't know why I'm going on about it, but yeah, documentary photography is more my thing now, you know?
So for anyone who's listened to this podcast for the past hour, they'll no doubt want to find you if they haven't found you already. Where's I know we've spoken about Instagram, but where's the best place to find you? Where's the best place to connect with you?
I think Instagram, because I haven't refinished my, or is that what you call it, the website?
Yeah.
At the website, but these are things that I plan on doing. God damn it, for the new year, I plan on fixing all that. But I'm really excited to kind of start leaking out my new series, because it's going to be a little different. It's going to be a little bit more telling, like more not telling, but it's going to be more composition-wise. It's going to be a little bit more. It's going to be different than what I usually do. But
how far off are you from beginning leaking that out and showing it? And
probably in I would say after the new year.
Yeah.
I start leaking a couple of photos out, and then I intend to have it published before I put it all out there.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Good stuff, man. Well, I do appreciate you taking an hour out of your day to speak to me, especially when you've been working late the night before.
Yeah. No problem. Please, it's my pleasure.
We'll put links and everything so people can find you and keep an eye out on what you're doing. And yeah, I just want to thank you again for coming on.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, buddy.
Cool. All right, man. Cheers. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Thanks to Donato Di Camillo for speaking with me on this week's episode of the Phoblographer's Inside the Photographer's Mind. Guys, if you enjoyed the show, please do subscribe, like it, comment, share it. We want to keep bringing it to you. We'll be back again next week with another guest, and thanks for listening. See ya.